Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Josh and Austin, and one of the things we're going to talk about today is the quote unquote Republican Civil War. And I mostly picked this as a topic because there's a lot of things that come off of it. Epstein, that's big in the news, and we'll talk about that. I think Israel potentially and Fuentes. So a lot of things that I think could potentially get brought up in the 2020 cycle. Could be a good little series we do, and maybe we'll do one for the Democrats as well. But really, what I kind of want to know, and Austin, I know you're in these circles, so I'm gonna throw it to you first. But what give me the background of like what's going on and like what the issue is, right? Like why are we starting to see some battle lines drawn with, I think Ben Shapiro and Fuentes and Carlson and Candace and all those people. So what's going on?
Uh, it mainly seems to come down on like for one, there's been pre-existing tensions, I would say, as far as like economical considerations and stuff like that for a while. But I think the big one recently has been like you said, like Israel. I think Epstein's another big thing, and that's kind of ties into Israel based on some of the stuff we've seen. And I think it's just kind of like you kind of got that older generation that's, I guess you would say, more neocon in a sense. So there, you got that faction. The younger faction's way more focused on like domestic political opinions or domestic political concerns and such. I think you kind of nailed it on the head. It's those three really, and it's just you know, but yeah, basically just those three.
So do you believe I guess do you believe the Israel thing is as big of a deal as it is in this divide? I guess like I initially picked on it from the Fuentes thing. And then that kind of got over into some of the Epstein stuff with MTG, I think last week or this week or something with her issue with Trump. But like how important is the Israel part?
I think for the younger generation, it's very important, and I think it's like one thing I consistently see is like we spent most of the summer dealing with like the Iran Israel situation and like Gaza and stuff. And like without even getting into that, there is just kind of a reflexive, okay, why are we spending so much time on this? Like there's real, affordability concerns here. Like why are we wrapped up in this? Is kind of like a big factor in it. And then I think it's just just kind of an instinctive like, okay, why are we in general? And like I've seen this for like a lot of other stuff, like other countries too. It's like why are we spending so much time in particular like worrying about this one country, but like it's like I said, like there's just so many more concerns here, and that really kind of gets the heart of the matter. There's, and that's been a divide in a general sense for a long time in American politics. Like you had the isolationist kind of sentiment back in the early 20th century. So I mean, it's not necessarily a new thing, but it's definitely like a new in terms of like this younger generation just has a lot different concerns than like older generations.
So Josh, how much of the kind of the divide are you seeing with some of the stuff you're doing? Does that happen at all?
Like in what way?
Like do you see people talking about like Tucker and Ben Shapiro being upset with each other? Like has it gotten down into like the normal voter as like or the normal conservative?
Yeah, yeah. To be
Is it
honest with
really? Okay, wow. Tell
Yeah.
me about that.
So I mean, I hear a lot of that as far as um, just kind of like a side thing. But the thing that I really hear the most about, especially towards like Shapiro and a few others, is like, dude, like honestly, the male population under the age of like 22 right now, dude, like anti-Semitism is like a big problem right now, dude. Like I've seen so many anti-Jew and like it was the Jews or the Jews are responsible for all this crap like stuff for a hot minute now, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah. But
Um,
but like how much of that is just trolling and how much of it is like actually happening?
like what do you mean by actually happening? Because I feel like a lot of it is trolling, but I think they have intent for actual. So
Like
I mean,
how much of like so if Austin makes a post, how much of Austin's actual beliefs are in that post and how much of it is just him being like edgy?
I feel like with Austin, it's probably more edgy. Unless she doesn't like the Jews, I don't know.
But just using him as an example, right? Like a lot of those guys who got in trouble a few weeks ago, they were all like staffers and shit like that, right?
Yeah,
So they're pretty like just kind of like your normal online person, which I'd assume, Austin's probably up there too. And
sure.
how much, but like how, but are they being edgy or are they just kind of
Um,
doing it because they believe it?
I think a lot of people believe it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I've heard a lot, even outside of social media, like in person, like a couple of my college volunteers, like were like, like we think like just for an example, right? So like I've heard the whole like, well, we think the Jews like are behind like the Charlie Kirk death and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, oh shit. I'm like, this is like actually not a like this isn't like just a fake thing. Like this is real. Like there's actual like anti-Semitism. Like because I saw all the trolling memes, the 30 dollars memes and all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But like the more I hear about it, I'm like, damn, like you know, the Jews are
So
getting
Austin,
blamed for a lot of things.
so Austin, how much? I mean, do you think it's real or do you think it's just online?
No, I 100% believe it's real. Like I hear and see a lot of the same things. Josh says he's heard and seen. Like it definitely is there. So yeah, I would concur with Josh on that.
See, I don't think I've seen like I don't think I've ever had someone be like, "Oh, the Jews." Like no one like seriously did it, right? Like I feel like most of the people I've talked to have kind of been like, "Oh, I think somebody's controlling something, like one guy knew was talking about that's what he did for COVID. He's like, I think this is all part of some plan or something like that. And like that stuff, I never understood it. Um, but I've never heard someone be like, yeah, dude, the Jews are fucking doing something, or the Jews are doing this. Now I did start listening to Candace, Josh, who I think was coming up with a lot of those like Israel took out Kirk. But like I don't think I've ever heard any normal person be like, oh yeah, this was what's happening. Do you have something out of that, Austin?
I mean, I hear it like in like regular normal conversation. People just like
Really?
completely unprompted. I'll get it. Now this may be like like you kind of work, I guess, more of like an upper white collar kind of environment. So I imagine it's probably not as prevalent there. But like in honestly, just like everyday conversations, like I'll just randomly have people be like, "Yeah, that's yeah, it's them," or just like completely random. Like the one that really got me, like a quick and it and a seat or whatever you call it. I went to go visit some friends recently, and they were just out of the blue like, "Did you see that guy that like yelled at Dave Portnoy?" And like they were like just like these were completely like normal. I barely ever hear them talk about politics. They're just like, yeah, it's definitely them, dude. Like they control everything. They look what they did to Dave with the Dave Portnoy situation. So it's like I'm definitely seeing it. It might be like a class thing, like I said, but like I'm definitely seeing it.
How many of those guys would you say are like Fuentes people?
Probably none, honestly. Like very few people. Well, let me take that back because like I haven't heard it in my direct day to day. Like somebody just randomly being like, yeah, Fuentes, but like I have heard like secondhand from other people like they'll randomly get like a message from like their mom or something like, "Hey, I watched this video of this Fuentes guy. Like I was listening to his like thing, or I was listening to like this Candace person or whatever." Or hey, Tucker Carlson said this. I really kind of agree with Tucker on it. So like,
Hmm.
I've not had that happen. Like as far as like one of my parents text me that, but like I have in just like everyday conversations with like friends or just like random people, just all of a sudden like, yeah, the Jews killed Charlie Kirk or something like that.
Wow. What do you think? What do you think, Josh? How many people are those are like Fuentes people, or how many of them are just kind of,
Bro, dude, the
I guess, a
Fuentes,
tad bit
dude,
anti-Semitic?
I've seen a lot of Fuentes people recently, bro. We actually had an employee of ours that was he was one of our part timers in Middle Tennessee. He became a Fuentes guy and like went AWOL like from us and like just went to social media and like went on there and went full Fuentes mode talking about some
Wow.
shit, which was crazy. But Nick Fuentes is a fuck though, dude. Um,
Like that's ridiculous, dude.
So, but so like you had someone who like, but like when you say he like went full Fuentes or whatever, what does that mean?
Full anti-Semitic,
But I mean, like was he just like, oh yeah, like he was posting Tennessee football stuff one day, and then the next day he was like, the Jews did 9/11 on Twitter. Like, what's going on?
No, so like he was like posting like political stuff one day, so it's like, just like regular like Donald Trump's great, all this like, Republican stuff or stuff that we were working on. And then it was just like you wake up the next day and it's like I fell into the MAGA trap, you know. Actually, I can read you the post. You want me to read you the post?
I guess so. I mean, if you've got it ready,
Yeah, no, I've got this thing ready, bros. Y'all
yeah,
ready?
go ahead. Because
So
I
this
mean,
guy,
this I'll just be honest with you
hold a
guys. I mean,
minute.
this this is seriously fascinating.
This gonna be a monologue. Okay, so mind you, this kid was like posting all about Donald Trump and stuff, right?
Hmm.
So the other day, 3 days ago, he posted this. It's a long caption, but I'm gonna read it. He said, I've never felt more betrayal than I do now. I remember spring 2024. Trump's season was in full swing in red Tennessee. Voters were energized, patriots were pumped. After years of a foreign invasion and high prices, the only thing we wanted was for it to end, not to deal with it once more. This is already starting to sound like AI, but anyway, um, I'm pretty sure this kid got this from AI because it's a lot of writing. Anyway, the next part. I remember getting involved in politics because I thought Trump truly cares about America. Now I know he's a weak liar with no integrity. Yes, I was MAGA. Yes, I rose fast. I went to the fancy dinners, the shiny events, shook the hands of U.S. senators and congressmen because I am passionate about my country, about Jesus Christ. I thought I was helping America. Yet now I feel like a complete an utter fool. I've never been more ashamed than I am now of what I've done. When I entered politics a year ago, I thought I was happy, yet it was just a shell. Now that I've left and am building a future with my bare hands, working a real job, I've never been happier. I've never been closer to Christ as I am now, and I'm finally going back to the Catholic Church this weekend after a year of disappointing God. I know I was MAGA, yet still, I feel personally betrayed by the very movement I was a part of. To any of my former peers who still continue to support this movement, know this: you are actively working towards the detriment of your fellow generation members. History will not judge you kindly if you do not publicly break with this disgraceful movement. Air quote. I implore you to take a long, hard look in the mirror. I wasn't happy with who I was becoming, so I quit. Will you do the same? MAGA was never really a movement, it was a controlled opposition. It was funded by Miriam Adelson and Peter Thiel and pushed by Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer. If we followed the money, we would have known what it was really was. Israel first, goy slop. It was never true America first. Yet we will see this one day because we are inevitable. For we are the national youth. America first is the future, and the establishment will either embrace us or be left with nothing and nobody. We are not Israel first and should never be. To my America first peers, never forget we did not leave MAGA, they left us. It's time for true America first now.
So I want to get Austin. I want to get your response to that. But it sounds like to me, I mean, what interesting with that is it sounds like to me it's like this sudden delusionment with what actually is going on with Donald Trump and I guess the Republican Party. But I mean, I don't understand it. But what's your take on that, Austin?
Well, it kind of reminds me of like, since you said he's Josh, you say he's like a former staffer, right?
Yeah, he was a former staffer of ours.
So the New York Times did a profile of Fuentes recently, and in it they noted that like based off like interviews and stuff they'd heard on Capitol Hill, like up to like 40% of like Republican staffers like consider themselves like Fuentes guys. So I mean that kind of fits with that kind of thing. So I mean I'm not really surprised to hear that. So I mean that does kind of dovetail with it.
So, but explain to me, is the divide was the divide caused by an internal stimuli or an external stimuli? Because it sounds like to me as I'd say that guy's still a conservative and he's still going to vote for probably the next Republican candidate. He just may not be MAGA or Trump, you know. I mean, is that what you guys are thinking?
In terms of like what? in terms of like what, like the cause, or you mean like?
Yeah, like it sounds like this guy was like it almost sounds like he's pulling away because like someone like Fuentes is like, hey, I don't like this Israel stuff, I don't like this American First stuff. But that's within the conservative movement instead of external, like Democrats are trying to win him over and say, oh, this is what we've been telling you forever, you
Yeah,
know?
I would definitely agree with that. Like I wouldn't say conservative because that kind of carries like a specific context in American politics, but like kind of like a general like right wing thing. Like I know there was, I think it was Times of Israel or something reported it like after like the Iran situation was like Trump in private conversations was like, yeah, there's just a lot of people in the base that just don't like Israel anymore, and they're very upset about this stuff. So I mean, it's definitely like
Mhm.
an internal thing. And I mean, in private, they're definitely saying like, okay, this actually has had an effect, and like I think you're kind of seeing like them try to respond to it in a sense because they've really been downplaying a lot of stuff from like the past year, but like there's only so much you can do. I think in terms of like you know, like you just saying stuff don't really fix it. So I mean, I think that's, and then too, you've kind of got in the background. You've just got the economy's not doing too hot. We all kind of predict there'll probably be a recession within the next year or so, and it kind of seems like that's coming true. So I think that's kind of adding fuel to the fire.
So what would anything make, well, I was gonna say like would anything make them switch to the Democratic side or or towards the left coalition? Do you think there's room there?
No, me personally, no. I mean, I feel like you'll see tactical alliances, and you kind of already see that because it's like the whole reason this discharge petition on like the Epstein files happens because you had people like Massey and MTG and stuff. So I mean, like there is definitely ground for like tactical considerations. And MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene's like talked about it too in terms of like a lot of economical stuff. Like there could be like, hey, let's work for this. But I don't, like fundamentally, like these people on this, they're very far right. Socially conservative in like the traditional sense. There's very conservative views on like foreign policy. I just, and like the I think it would really just be like tactical stuff. I don't see like you can't, like, I don't see somebody like Fuentes as like you know an avowed, like he God, I'm stuttering. No, I don't see it because it's like I really can't see the Democrats being like, okay, let's win over the quote unquote Nazis. So
Yeah. Well, because I was watching this Pod Save America episode where they did their convention and they're talking about um how great they were doing and I'm glad someone mentioned this and they were like, well, look, like a lot of the gains were just from turning out their voters and Republicans not being able to turn out as many as they could. And he's like, we didn't win anybody's votes. We just played the game better than they did. And it really made me sit there and think, and I'm like, is that really what our elections are going to be? Because I mean, like, yeah, you can make an argument like we don't want some of them, but at the same time, I'm like, most of them are probably right populists, right?
yeah,
And they're going to be for, and I think even Kirk was doing this, where it's like, we need to tax the rich, we need to do something about working families, yeah, 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 and it's like that fits in with the coalition, but like, would they ever actually become Democrats? I don't know.
well, speaking of Kirk, like one thing that came up a lot around the time of his assassination, people were like, Candace is claiming he was like ready to like full on turn on like the Israel issue. I don't personally believe that, but he was having to like hedge a lot more on it simply because it's become such an issue, and I think he kind of realized you have to, like he had to go from like unabashedly like pro-Israel to kind of like hedging on it, and that was kind of noted in a lot of like the obituaries and stuff. It was like, yeah, he was very pro-Israel, but even he was kind of having to like, hey guys, we got to kind of focus on this other stuff. Like we do have to kind of like tone back on that. So I mean, like that definitely, yeah, I just thought that was interesting since you brought up Kirk in that context.
So Josh, draw the battle lines for me. Who's on like Team Shapiro and who's on Team like Tucker?
These are things I do not have. I don't have the full answer to that question. I mean, I know people personally, like in the state, or like I know people personally that side one way or the other. I
Well, but so
managed
how many
elected
people how
officials.
many
I
people do
don't
you
know.
know would you say is on one team or the other? Not including yourself. Like just people you associate with. Do you say most of them are like
Well,
on that Tucker side or more that Shapiro side?
the Tucker people probably get more.
Really?
Um, at least just my experience now, Tucker's going to get the younger, the younger. I'm telling you, I wasn't joking. Like I think Austin even touched on it. Like when I tell you, like men, male, the male species under 22, anti-Semitism is not like a joke. Like they genuinely like, and I've got friends included in this that talk about this. They genuinely blame Israel. They don't like Israel, you know, and you know they've outgrown they've outgrown the whole Israel first movement. Um, Why would you do that? So the thing there is, you know, I think the Tucker people are going to get the more of the nod than the Shapiros are. But I don't know what y'all are hearing. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I guess I just like I feel like everyone's like tacitly like with Tucker, but it's like, yeah, but like this Candace stuff, like, you know, like she's like I was watching someone who does like some Megyn Kelly stuff and she was like, yeah, like Candace is a little out there, you know? Like she's kind of drifting a little further out there ever since this Kirk stuff happened. And that's why I'm just kind of like, like I feel like a lot of people are like on that Ben Shapiro side. Whether they like I think they're on that side, but they want to say they're on the other side. What do you think, Austin?
Well, I don't know if they did polling in terms of like party breakdown, but like kind of piggybacking off what Josh has said, like, you know, a pretty good gauge on it would be like polling as far as like where you stand on like the Israel Palestine issue. And it's like for young people, especially young men now, it's pretty firmly like on the pro Palestinian position. So I mean that's and like there was even that like even like if you look at Republicans as a whole, it's still pro Israel, but if you kind of like narrow it down to like the demographics he's talking about, like yeah, it's overwhelmingly against like opposed to that. So I mean, like the Ben Shapiro types, they still have like the boomers, and for now, the boomers are still like in control of a lot of stuff. But like,
Maybe that's why I think they're kind of in charge or leading it because they've got all the establishment institutional
yeah.
weight.
But now, like kind of going off what Josh has been saying about like, the staffers and stuff, and I mentioned that MIT thing earlier. But I've been hearing this for like over a year or two now, where it was like a lot of these staffers, like the people that are actually in like the political positions, yeah, they're still boomers and they still have those positions, but it's like as far as like I don't really want to say bureaucracy because I don't think that it don't think it's correct kind of word for it. But as far as like the party apparatus at like the lower levels, like yeah, it's definitely like give it 10, 20 years and you're going to see a serious change.
Hmm.
Possibly sooner. I mean, truthfully.
But so what does that say about the future of the Republican Party?
It really depends
Because
how
I
it
mean,
plays.
like let's compare that to the Democrats, right?
Mhm.
I think as much as you want to say whatever about the Republicans, I feel like the Democrats are like, yeah, like we're like if they really haven't changed much, and if anything, they're trying to broaden their tent. And I look over here at the Republicans, and it's like, yeah, like it looks like a lot of their guys are just becoming anti-Semitic, And it's like, yeah, like you could argue, Democrats have that kind of stuff going on too, and they do. But it's like it seems like like the Republicans are kind of heading towards the downswing, and Democrats are heading up on the upswing.
I mean, yeah, I mean, as far as like it's kind of like after the elections, I would definitely say that, but like how that's going to play out though, I think it's because it's not just like you wake up and it's like, oh, I hate Jews. Like that's not the sum total of like their belief system. Like they're like yeah, I talked earlier about like the economics. Like I could definitely see that. Like you're going to see a lot more populist economics once the boomers are gone, just as a
Hmm.
general. But like, so I think you're really going to see a lot of sea change. I think in like political, just because like the turnover. But you know,
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
in my personal opinion, I think it's good. I mean, I feel like we definitely like American politics for at least a solid. I would say I was gonna say 50 years, but I would say this probably 40 years has been so dominated by like the boomers and their particular beliefs that like a lot of this is just it really do probably need to change just because the political culture's gotten so uh what's a good word for it? I guess stale.
Yeah,
Would be like
that's literally the word that I had. I was like stale.
and like and I've been sending it to you. I haven't sent it in like the group chat, but I sent it to you like personally, like Republican posters being like, we're really seeing like this kind of like flip, and we're getting people like writing in like personal experiences, just like I really think like the boomer formula of like being kind of like really conservative on economics is just not going to be tenable. And I think there's also just like the Israel issue. So I definitely feel like you're going to see a lot of change on that front.
See, I think I was actually kind of thinking about this in a way, and I was like, I feel like everyone's ready to jump on, okay, the Democratic Socialists of America are gonna run the Democratic Party. And I just don't know if that's actually gonna happen. I think everyone is thinking like, okay, free market capitalism's dead. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really gonna happen. You know? I feel like with where we are at is I feel like we've built the system too much out of a capitalist system for us to be like, okay, we're gonna change out of that and for it to really happen. Now, I think they'll still be a part of the party, but I just don't know if they're actually going to be like, okay, well, we're going to do full blown socialism now.
Well, one thing I will note, and like they're following what counting his data to kind of back it up. A lot of the reason Trump didn't win in 2020 was because they figured out there was about 4 million white men, especially younger men, did not turn out like they had in 2016 and they did in 2024. So I mean, like that now do I think it was as prevalent back then as it is now? Definitely not. But like I do think I do kind of get like a sense, and like Josh may have a take on this too. I get like a sense that they kind of realize like this is an issue for them. It's like the they really can't thread the needle on these type of things anymore, and I think that is kind of speaking to what you're saying as far as like this is becoming an increasingly salient issue.
So, Josh, what are elected officials saying?
In Tennessee or in general?
Both. I would say in Tennessee and in just everyone you've talked to.
In Tennessee, I mean, pretty much. I'll be honest. If you're in not just Tennessee, I'll just be honest. I can make this collectively. So anybody standing with Trump is really, they're behind Israel. They're going, they're pro-Israel. Um, any Republicans not necessarily associated with Trump or like maybe not the best. They're they're on the other side of it, and then obviously everybody else is what they are. Uh, that's kind of that's just the holistic view of it is super like Trump people like getting the endorsements behind Israel. If they're Republicans, maybe not endorsed or like maybe not like best standing of Trump, they're on the other side of the Jewish situation.
Now, quick question: have you noticed like the sense I've gotten and the data I've seen is it's definitely like a generational thing. And I know you've said it's like young guys, but like does that kind of hold in general? Like older people, especially like boomers, are more pro-Israel, while like younger people aren't, or is it kind of more mixed in your view?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Andrew? I mean, Austin.
So, in like your experience, like from my personal experience and like the data I've seen, it looks like it's like very much a generational thing, and you've kind of hit on that a little bit. But like, younger people are more anti, older people, especially boomers, are more pro. In your experience, is that kind of borne out like, or is it more kind of like mixed age groups?
Um, for me, it's generational. I'll be honest. I think it's a religion thing. I mean, you got to think like, I mean, the mega church movement was huge, boomer and post boomer. But the problem with mega churches is like most of them. I can't remember the guy's name. It was a John something, but he like kind of started the mega church movement. But like they just like closed, and he just got like discredited from like a lot of the denominational stuff like a year or two ago. And so like now you see all these other things popping up, but I think it's more generational. I think coffee churches have became a thing. It's became more of like a social media style thing, so people are digging it. It's easier to get away from like the word. But okay. But granted, I will say too, not to fully like diss on the younger generation, because I do think they have. I think they're confused as well. But you get not just the boomer, but older than the boomers. Like, I mean, let's go look at denominations. Like the Southern Baptist Convention is not only is it younger than Christianity, it's not even as old as America is. Like, you know, there's 100 denominations that are younger than America, and what you get with that is you get redneck hillbillies that make shit up. You know, people talk about the rapture. The word rapture is not even in the Bible. Like I think if you really look into things, I think it becomes people make things up. They create their own denominations, and
So
they get
are
away
you
from
saying Ted Cruz is full of
they get
shit?
like in what way?
Because wasn't he the one who's saying like that's why we got to support Israel because it's in the Bible and all that kind of stuff?
I'm a like I said, I support the people. The government, I kind of have a little bit of an issue with. Um, I do think the Bible's right on supporting Israel. Not saying that that's a problem. I think when I talk about it being generational, is I think there's been a lot of. I think the issue is a lot of people are like, there's so many denominations, so everybody's trying to consolidate, and that's where you create coffee churches and all these other things, and it's become away from the Bible. Because I'll be honest, I feel like if you go to any church now that's not like Catholic, Orthodox, or like um uh I'll even say Pentecostal, because Pentecostal reads it, but like other than them, I genuinely think 75% or more of that church has never read the Bible from cover to end.
Interesting.
So I think that's kind of like that. Like I said, I think the problem is, do I like I agree with Ted Cruz. I think we do support Israel. I think they are. That's my opinion. That's why I was kind of picking on the younger generation being in a Senate. Like I said, I don't agree with their government, but I stand with the people. But I do think the issue becomes that there's 100 million different denominations of Christianity, and the younger generation has created a bunch of coffee churches, and we've got rid of viewpoints, if that makes sense. Sorry, I feel like I got on a rant there. I'm sorry. Religion is like one of my things I like talking about a little bit.
No, I mean I think I agree with most of that. What do you think, Austin?
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. In terms of like what?
I guess just like with there being that generational divide.
Yeah, it's definitely generational. I think, and like one thing that I really picked up on what he read earlier was he talked about that ex staffer like um rejoining the Catholic Church. Fuentes is really big on that. Like he considers himself a Catholic and he kind of extols the Catholic Church. So I mean, but
What is up with it seems like all of the major Christians nowadays are Catholics. Like in Canada's a Catholic. I
yeah,
think Michael Knowles, I think, is a Catholic, and then what's his name on Daily Wire? I think both of them are like Catholics. Um, it's weird that there's like a lot of them. Yeah, JD Vance is now Catholic. Like, what's up with that? Like, is that just what I don't know what it is, like overrepresentation of that group, or what, or is it like a hierarchical thing that kind of fits with conservative nature?
I don't know if there's. I saw like somebody kind of talk about that a while back, and I wish I could remember all the details on it, but like there definitely was like, especially in like recent decades, kind of like a. I don't know if counterculture would be like the correct word, but like traditional Catholicism really did catch on, and I'm not really sure if it's what specifically, because like you look at like America at large, and like Catholicism isn't it's still large, but it's not like it's this it's still fundamentally this is still kind of fundamentally like a Protestant country at its core. So I mean, I don't know. It's a good question.
Hmm.
I think you did kind of touch on one factor on it. It is kind of like an elite kind of thing at this point, or people that I guess you would kind of say is sort of like a countercultural elite kind of do it. I'm not sure if it's like a signaling thing or if it's just like they're actually drawn to it or stuff. But like there is, and like I have seen stuff like where like priests are talking about like, yeah, we're seeing like this wave of like especially younger men become like really devout Catholics, but it's yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay. Well, let's end it on this. How do you think all this is going to end, and who wins? I think honestly, I feel like the way it's going to end is just going to be like some coalescing of the right again in like 2030 or something, like it's going to be something like that, where or like 2028, where it's going to be like, hey, like we still need to win elections. And I think really kind of like what Charlie Kirk did a good job of is like bringing all these people together. And I think you're going to have someone like that who's just going to bring all of them together and coalesce that group. What do you think, Josh? How's this going to end?
Um, are you wanting just like? Can you kind of give me like a direction? So I feel like I'll go
Like,
too
like, like,
far.
how do you think all this is going to end? Do you think like the Ben Shapiro group or the Tucker group is going to win out? And um, what does that mean?
Man, you know, honestly, can Andrew? I mean, not Andrew. Can Austin? Sorry, I'm keep getting names mixed. I'm sorry, guys. Um, can Austin go first here? Because like I kind of want to gather some thoughts here because I have thoughts, but like I'm kind of sporadic. So if you give me a second, I'd like
Yeah.
Austin to go here.
Uh, I don't know if there's gonna be like one like really big decisive point, but like I said earlier, like I don't think it's gonna be like oh we got to win the elections, guys. Like I think there's enough like frustration at this point, and like people like it's no longer just a political matter, like it's like a religious matter too for a lot of people.
Hmm.
So it's like I don't see that being papered over easily at all. So now I don't know what that'll mean. I'm not going to predict what that means for 2028, but as far as like the bigger like ideological split, some of my friends both kind of made the point. Is like there's like 2 million boomers a year are dying. I mean, just mathematically, like this is like even if they're like none of them are being converted in like their positions, just through like sheer attrition, it's going to go one way because it's yeah, it may just be 40% of your staffers right now, but if it's all your young staffers, then you know 10, 15, 20 years down the line, those are the people that are going to be like actually running the machinery, actually running for office and stuff. And then like, just being brutally honest about it, in 20 years, there's really not going to be many boomers left to like vote on stuff. So I think it just sheer attrition is going to win it out.
What do you think, Josh? How's this all going to end, and who wins?
Man, dude, yeah, I tried to gather thoughts there. Right now I don't really have a clear answer for you. Um, I'll be honest. Like I see these orgs or these people, um, which is crazy. I mean, like okay, I'll give you an example. Like for example, like Turning Point lost money. Like Turning Point USA before Charlie Kirk died, the Jewish donors pulled their money out of Turning Point when Kirk was, because he also, jumped on that Tucker Carlson train.
Hmm.
They pulled money out. Like we were like, in like just like here in Tennessee, like, I try to partner with a lot of different orgs on campuses or orgs in general, but like with Turning Point, like, you know, it was I remember them talking about, funding and being like a problem, and I'm like, this is before Kirk died, so obviously, they didn't have like a bunch of people that were like donating, but it was like, I go and look, and I mean, like a lot of the Jewish donors pulled cash out, so I'm like, okay, so that stands to reason. I don't know who's got more power right now, to be honest with you. I genuinely don't. Um, you know, I want to say, as a, being America, I think at the end of the day, it would take the entire it would take boomers becoming senile or completely dead for it to like shift full into the Shapiro's not Shapiro side, but the Tucker side. Um, but I think as long as there's as like boomers are around and those values exist, I think that we'll still see majority as far as conservative side. Majority of Republican side will still side on the Israel side.
Okay, let's end it there.
All right, boys. Great stuff tonight.